So, if you're a creator, you know the grind, right? The constant hustle. But is all that work you're putting in actually building a lasting business? Or are you just creating a more demanding job for yourself? Today, we're going to dive into the blueprint for moving beyond just making content and really becoming the CEO of your own media empire. For the longest time, media was a fortress. If you wanted to get your message out, you had to get past the gatekeepers. The big publishers, the network execs, the editors. They held all the keys, and if you couldn't get through their door, your voice just disappeared. Well, that world, it's completely collapsed. With the rise of the creator economy, everything's changed. Now, you have a direct line to an audience. That's a power that used to be reserved for these massive, faceless institutions. Today, you hold the keys. But here's the crucial question, the one we really have to ask ourselves. This incredible new opportunity, it comes with a hidden danger. Are you using this power to build something that's going to last, something you actually own? Or are you accidentally building a cage for yourself? And that brings us to the single biggest mistake that most creators make. We call it the creator's trap. It's that feeling of running on a hamster wheel, going faster and faster just to stay in the same place. And it all starts with building on what is essentially rented land. The numbers here are just staggering. Seriously, look at this. If you have 1 million followers on Instagram, the platform might only show your post to less than 8% of them. On Facebook, it's even lower, closer to 6%. You don't actually own that audience. You're just renting their attention from the platform. And this just perfectly illustrates the risk. When your entire business model depends on platforms you don't control, you have what's called a single point of failure. One little algorithm tweak, a policy change, and your business could be wiped out, literally overnight. That's not a business, that's a gamble. So how do we get out of the trap? Well, we stop thinking in a straight, fragile line, and we start building a resilient, interconnected network. This is what we call the ecosystem solution. So what exactly is a media ecosystem? Well, think of it as a network where all of your different assets actually work together. Your podcast promotes your newsletter drives people to your course builds up your community, and that community then gives you incredible ideas for your next podcast. See, each part makes the whole thing stronger. Let's just look at these two models side by side. The old way, that fragile chain, it means you're basically running a bunch of separate little businesses on each platform. It's exhausting, and there's no synergy. But the ecosystem model, it integrates everything. Your assets start working together, creating this compounding growth where 1 plus 1 suddenly equals 3. I absolutely love this quote because it makes the whole idea crystal clear. Social media platforms are your outposts. They're fantastic for discovery, for meeting new people, for engagement, but your website, your email list, your own private community, that's headquarters. That is the ground you own, where you make the rules and you own the data. Now, building this ecosystem requires a really solid foundation, which brings us to the first of 3 pillars, your vision. And this isn't some fluffy mission statement you write once and forget about. No, this is the anchor that's going to keep you steady when the inevitable storms hit. Just look at the difference here. A weak mission is tactical. It's about what you do. I teach digital marketing. Okay, but a strong mission, it's transformational. It's about the change you create for a very specific person. It answers not just what, but who and why. And that clarity guides every single decision you make from here on out. Okay, so once your vision is crystal clear, you need a way to execute on it consistently without completely burning out. And that is pillar 2. Building your engine. This is all about creating sustainable systems. This is such a critical mindset shift. You have to ask yourself, are you a doer or are you a designer? The doer works in the business, stuck on an endless hamster wheel of tasks. But the designer? The designer works on the business, creating systems that can run without them. One leads to scale, and the other, well, it just leads to burnout. A really great system for this is the content matrix. You strategically allocate your efforts. So the bulk of your time, about 60%, goes into your hub content. That's your consistent, reliable value. Then about 20% is hygiene content, answering common questions. 10% is for your big swing hero content. And that final 10%, that's for playing around, for experimenting. This mix creates a really sustainable engine for growth. And finally, with that clear vision and a sustainable engine in place, we get to pillar 3, owning your empire. This is where we talk about monetization, about real value, and about building something that could one day exist entirely without you. A key decision you'll make here is about your branding. A personal brand is definitely faster to build, and it often feels more authentic. But a company brand, while it might be a bit slower to get going, can scale way beyond just you. And this is vital. It can be sold. You're building enterprise value, not just a personal platform. Monetization should also be a system, not just a random afterthought. The product ascension ladder is a perfect example of this. You start with free content to build trust. Then you offer a low-cost product to turn followers into actual customers. From there, you ascend them to your core offer, and finally to a premium service. This way, you serve everyone, from the person who's just curious all the way up to your most committed client. So, we've covered the trap, the ecosystem solution, and the 3 pillars you need to build on. Now let's talk about moving from this blueprint to the actual build. Let's talk about your very next move. Here are 3 mental reframes that are just absolutely essential. First, stop chasing perfectionism and start embracing iteration. Just get it done, and then you can make it better. Second, like we said, shift from being a doer to a designer, build systems. And third, focus on the outcome for your audience, not just your output. Success isn't about how many videos you publish, it's about how many lives you actually change. This table just brilliantly illustrates the entire journey we've been talking about. Are you building a job or an asset? Well, a job has a following, an asset has an owned audience. A job means you're working in the business, an asset means you're working on it. A job generates income, an asset builds equity. So, I'll ask you directly, look at your own work, your own creative business. Which side of that table are you really on? Are you building a job for yourself, or are you truly building a lasting asset? Because at the end of the day, this amazing new opportunity we have as creators, it isn't just about making more content. That's really only the beginning. The real goal is to build an empire, a resilient, valuable, and impactful media company that you truly own. And now you have the blueprint to do it.